everybody, Zach again, newtotorah.com, coming in, making a video for you today. We're going to continue on with Torah apologetics, advanced apologetics, based on the talk I gave at Beaumont, Texas in 2017. And the next verse, one of the verses that get thrown about quite often is this one. It's the Romans 14 verse, and that's the argument that any day, Zach, any day, we can choose to have the Sabbath any day. We don't need to do the old Jewish Sabbath. We can do Sabbath any day we want to because we've chosen Sunday, and that's just the day we're going. And they use Romans 14 as their proof text for that change. And so, and my rebuttal is that you can't choose Romans 14 to keep the Sabbath. The context of Romans 14 is and has always been about eating if you read the verse. This is one of the most cherry-picked verses in all of your Bible. And so I give it a cherry-pick award. And I do that for a number of verses throughout this series because some of these are so cherry-picked, it's unbelievable that your pastor will stand up there on Sunday morning and use this verse as a way to basically argue that the Sabbath has been changed. We can have the Sabbath any day we want to now. If you want to pick a Wednesday, pick a Wednesday. It's that the Christian church has traditionally now chosen a Sunday, and it's all based on Romans 14. This is so cherry-picked. And so let's read the verse. It says, "One man esteems one day above another, another esteems every day alike. Let every man be persuaded in his own mind." Sometimes it says convinced there, sometimes it says persuaded, but let every man be persuaded, fully persuaded in his own mind. So, you want this day to be your Sabbath? Great. You want this day to be your Sabbath? I've seen lots of pastors tell me, Zach, listen, if you want to do Saturday as your Sabbath, good on you. You can do that if you want to, because it says right there, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. You do what you want to do, I'll do what I want to do, and we'll all be good. See, that is man doing what is right in his own eyes. There is only one seventh day of the week. There's only one rest for the week. Romans 14 is not talking about the Sabbath. Romans 14 doesn't even mention the word Sabbath. In fact, the word Sabbath isn't even used at all in the book of Romans. So the context is not Sabbath. Let's see what is the context. Here is Romans 14 in its, for the first 6 verses. Let's read. In fact, we don't even really need to read it. You can see on your screen how many times, this is a King James, by the way, King James translation, how many times you see the word eat on your screen. Eat or eateth or ateth. I mean, depending on what translation you have, if using a King James, you will see it 10 times before and after the verse. Eateth, eating, eat. There's somebody's eating something here. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just, what they do. We on Sabbath, we get together on Sundays and do potlucks. I mean, so that there, we know it's the Sabbath because they're eating. I'm assuming you eat the rest of the week as well, right? You're not just eating on Sunday. But look at that. It says right there, one man esteems one day above another, another esteems every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind, the part that's underlined. And on both sides of the verse, before and after, you see the word eat. Now, if you're using an NIV or an ESV or some of the more modern translations, you may only see it 6 times before and after. Like 4 times before and 2 times after. But really, the context is eating before and after Romans 14:5. I mean, there's no way you can argue that. So wouldn't you think, just guessing, wouldn't it make sense a little bit that the context here is about people who are eating something? And then when you go back in time and you do a little bit of research historically, you find that there was a gigantic debate in the first century among believers, especially believers in Messiah and just Jewish believers in general, that, there were certain days when you began to fast and certain days you didn't. Excuse me. Some people wanted to fast on Tuesdays and says that is the day we need to fast. And some people are like, no, we got to do it Thursday. That's the day to fast. And Paul is writing back to them and saying, hey guys, it doesn't really matter. Okay, if you want to fast on Tuesday, fine. One man eats this day, another man does not. Another man eats that day, another man does not. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. There's no law against it. There's nothing in the Torah, there's nothing in the Bible, in the book of Words of Moses, that says, you have to fast on certain days except for Yom Kippur. So if you want to fast on a Thursday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a whatever, it'd be kind of hard to fast on a Saturday because that is a Sabbath, and Sabbath is technically considered a feast day. So, but if you wanted to fast on any of these other days, I mean, hey, you know, something we forget often when it comes to Romans and Galatians and some of these other books that Paul wrote that, you know, we find confusing, is that we don't have the letter that was written to him that he is responding to. You see, Romans, the letter of Romans, the epistle to the Romans is, in fact, a response to a letter that was sent to him before. We don't have the first correspondence to see what exactly the context is Paul is talking about in this letter back to these people who wrote to him. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know how that does not compute with some people. That, you know, it's like if you ever walked into a conversation and you have no idea what's been discussed and you think you do, and you look like an idiot because you start putting in your 2 cents and you realize, you know, you have no idea what, and they're like, dude, quit jumping in the middle of a conversation. I mean, I've done that. You've done that. We've all done that. So what's stopping? I mean, that's exactly what you're doing here when you take this verse out of context and say it's about the Sabbath when it actually had nothing to do with the Sabbath whatsoever. Somebody a long time ago said, oh, that's a really good verse for apologetics, so we can use for, you know, promoting on how on why the Sabbath is on Sunday and not Saturday. The reality is, folks, the Catholic Church changed the Sabbath. It was the Roman Catholic Church that changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. I mean, go look it up. You do your own research. You don't believe me? Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that the Roman Catholic Church doesn't even admit publicly in their writings that they changed the Sabbath. It's Saturday, the 7th day of the week. Look at a calendar. What's the 7th day on your calendar? It's Saturday. You know, oh, that's Saturn's day. No, it just happens to coincide with the Roman Saturn's day. I get it. But it's the 7th day of the week. 119 has a great video on that whole thing. You know, amazing video. But this whole thing, that Romans 14 is proof text that the Sabbath can be any day you want. Sunday is a completely acceptable day for the Sabbath. Hey, listen, you can worship the Father any day you want. Any day you want. But see, there's a day you're supposed to rest. There's a day you're not supposed to work. There's a day you're not supposed to make anyone else do any work. That means going out to restaurants and paying someone to be your server for an hour. Okay? There's a day of rest. And if the whole world lived by the Torah, God's commandments, the thing that brings you blessings and curses, they also would be resting on the 7th day. They would. So this is one of the most cherry-picked verses of all time. And it's something that I think I get thrown at a lot. And that's why it's number 2 in my list of Torah apologetics, advanced Torah apologetics that we need to go down. And it also gets a cherry-pick award because of the amount of times it's been cherry-picked to be used out of context. Paul, I mean, some of you guys, when the day you meet Paul, he's going to slap you around silly for some of the ways you used his writings out of context. All right, then, we'll leave it at that. Go home, read your Bible. Thanks.